All right, so we're going to continue on with some more MySQL PHP CRUD. And just a review real quickly, this is now my products page. This is my products page where I'm listing all the fields from the database. And we can obviously modify this, and customers don't want to see the ID. That's not useful for them, right? We definitely don't want them to see the cost. So we could modify this however we wanted. And instead of the image path, we could change that to actually show an image, right? So this is just a quick way. This is very similar to the way Rails does it to start with. It gives you something to start with that you can modify and play with, all right? So as you're developing, I like to see all of this information, especially the ID, so that we can make sure that the rest of the links and things that we're going to add to this work. So we're going to add some links to this to make it add the CRUD features. And this will be very Rails-ish if you've had Rails before. So let's start by adding some additional table cells here. Let's add a new table cell, and we'll make it, we're going to call it delete. All right, and just to see that that works okay, we'll reload it. And now we have a delete column here. And the next part I want to do is I want to create all of the functionality that would allow a deletion of a record to happen when I click this link. All right, I'm going to make this into a link, click it, and I want something to happen. All right, so let's walk through the steps of creating a deletion of this. Now again, Rails did this all for you in the scaffolding, but you're not so lucky here. What do we need in order to, what SQL command would it be? Let's just figure out what that would look like. What SQL command would it be to delete a record from the table? Delete from products where product ID equals whatever that ID is, right? Some number here. Some number. Right? So we'll have to figure out. So every record is going to be different. So if I have a delete button on this line, the ID is going to be what? 2. If I have a delete button on this line, the ID is going to be 3, etc. So each line, each link is going to be different for every row that I have in my table. Everybody got that? So I have to create the URL dynamically based on that ID. So I'm going to have an A tag, and we want it to go to product delete.php. I'm going to call it that. And I need to pass it some information. Because remember that HTTP is stateless. I need to send some information along with this URL so that I can get that data, call the query, and delete that particular record. So I'm going to pass it a name-value pair, a key-value pair, that I can then retrieve from another PHP script. So I'm going to call it product ID and equals, and then the value of whatever row I'm on. So how do I get the product ID from this particular row? Self? Self? Wrong language. That sounds Rails-ish. No, wrong language again. So we're in the loop. We're looping through every row. Row gives us an associative array of all the column names in that row. So it would be, right, it would be, and I have to use these braces, $row sub quote product ID. All right, that gives me the number of the record that I want to delete. And then I want to have something to click on. So I have to finish my A tag. And then I'm going to say delete and have a closing A tag. All right, so I'm going to call this future to be written method that I don't have yet, this PHP page. I'm going to pass it some product ID information. Whoa. So that I can get that and formulate the SQL command correctly, etc. So let's see if that link actually shows up now. All right, so now I have a link. It says delete. And if you hover over these on the bottom, it's really hard to see. But down here in the URL, it says product ID equals 2, product ID equals 3, product ID equals 4. That matches the record that I have. So if I were to actually click on this, it's going to go to a PHP page called productdelete.php, and we're going to pass some values to that, a product ID. All right, so everybody with me so far? So what's the next piece of code that I have to write? I have to write a whole new PHP file. So let's create a new PHP file that is going to be product_delete.php, which matches the link that I'm going to go to eventually. And oops, I didn't call it a PHP file, so let me go get my code here. Just so it looks the same. Get rid of these guys. All right, so here's my product delete. I'm in some PHP. And since this file is going to be connecting to the database, what do I have to do with this file? Make a connection. So a lot of the same code is going to be the same. I'm going to require the connect file, which sets up these 4 variables. I'm going to do the connection. So I'm going to copy all of this code all the way down into the query and put it into my delete. All right, so now I've got my code here. And it does a connection. My SQL is going to be different. So I want to use this kind of code instead of this select statement. And it's going to be where product ID equals what? How do I get that value from the URL string, from the query string? Using the get value, right? So I'm going to say my ID is going to be get sub product ID. All right? Everybody with me so far? Then I'm going to replace this with the value of my ID variable, and so when I print this out, it should show me something. So let's just do that so far. We won't actually do the deletion. And let's reload this page. And I get SQL is delete from products where product ID equals 2. So that is a value that I got from the query string. If this was 3, this would be 3 down here. So that all seems happy, right?
Is there a way to take some of that code that's repeated and just throw it into a method?
Yeah, absolutely.
String, basically?
Yeah, you could put all of this. Maybe I'd put my connection and my die all inside of my dbconnect file. I could do that. That would be nice because that's, if I'm going to do it every time, I might as well put it in the file. That's a, don't repeat yourself, right? So, good question. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I won't do it just because if we want to play with something, but yeah. Right. Now, we wouldn't want to put it in our header because sometimes our pages aren't connecting to the database. So we don't want to connect willy-nilly to the database. We only want to do it on the pages where we have to have it. So I'd have another require versus this one has the require of the actual the chrome, I like to call it, the stuff around the page is being pulled in here, and this would only be required if I'm connecting to the database. All right, so let's actually do the deletion. This code is similar. I'm going to actually execute the SQL command that I created as a string here. I'm going to execute that and then get some result back to see if that worked. So I'm going to call this method printr and pass result. Oh, I've got to have parentheses here. And see if we get anything back from that result page. See if that's going to work for me. So I can reload this page, and it should be deleting, actually executing the query and deleting that product. So let's go look at our database, make sure we have some source here. Look at my products. And right now I've got 3 records. So this should be deleting my 3rd record. Actually, which if I put 3, it's going to delete which one? My boots, right? So let's reload that guy. And I got a 1 back. The result had a value of 1, which means that it was successful. So let's go refresh our database here, and you see that my boots got deleted. So everything was happy. So since it deleted it, would I ever show a page like this to the user? Does that make sense to go show them some SQL and say deleted, your record was deleted? What would be the next page you would expect them to have happen? Redirect them back to the products page again, right? I want to see the products and go through the whole connection, go get all the data from the database, redisplay it in the table, and that record should be gone, right? So there is a way to do that in PHP to redirect and all right, so the method going to the php.net, if we look at the header, there's a function called header, and we can pass information back to the browser to tell it to redirect someplace. So this is how we would redirect to another page. So I'm going to copy this code, and I'm going to just put in the redirect. And where would I redirect to? Right? I'm going to redirect to the relative location of products.php. All right? So let's go back to my products page. You got to be careful here, or I'll delete my whole database. So let's reload this guy. My boots should be gone. My link to delete, now if I delete my polls, should click, go to the delete page, and then I get an error. All right? Cannot modify header information. Header's already sent by the output. So the problem with this is that header, you can't change the header if I've already sent something to the screen. So I've already sent this SQL command to the screen. So that doesn't work. So I have to, the easiest way is just not to echo this out. So for now, that was good for debugging. We'll just take that echo out, and that should now work. Unfortunately, my database is getting smaller by the minute, and I only have 1 guy left. So let's go delete this guy. Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? All right, so it did a redirect, but the browser cached my page for me. So we'll talk about how to fix that later. But it cached my page and still showed the link there. But at least I've now deleted my entire database, and it would be nice if I had a way of creating a bunch of products, wouldn't it? So let's I can't even it's going to make me do this. Skis. Create a bunch of data. All right, so now I've got one product left. I can go refresh my page. And I've got my product back with my delete. And now it says delete product ID 5 because I deleted all the other products that I had before that. All right, so any questions on my route that I took here? I first created a link to this product delete.php, giving it some value that I'm going to delete on. And then inside the delete method, the delete PHP file, I get that value back out of this computer, back out of the query string, and I use that to delete my, or to create my SQL string and then actually execute the SQL string, and finally redirect back to my products page. All right, so there's a problem with this. If I'm getting data from the user, can I, as a get here, for instance, the user could actually see this data, right? They can see this in the URL. If I go back and look at, well, where's my page? I don't want to actually delete anything. All right, so when I actually see this, somebody could actually change this and put any number they want, right? So that's not a good way to do that. But even if I put it in a post string, which is harder to deal with, I can hack that, and it just takes me another 30 seconds. It's not that much more difficult. So, but the other problem with this is I can actually add additional information, which is called SQL injection. I can drop a table or drop all tables or send some other command by putting a semicolon, because SQL commands can be separated by semicolons. And this entire 3: drop table then gets put into this string where product ID equals 3: drop table, and my entire table gets destroyed. Or I could say alter table, add a user as an admin. I could put a huge long select statement in there, add myself as a user to their user table, and that's what's called SQL injection. So we need to be careful about this number that comes in. We have to make sure that it's only a number. So there's various ways of doing that. We want this to be ID. So there are some methods in PHP.
Methods in Ruby are better.
Yeah, they are. There's a method called isNumeric that tests a Boolean. It gives you a true or false if a value was numeric or not. And so I could test to see if that ID is numeric. And if it isn't, then skip this completely. So I could do something like this. If is numeric of ID, then I want to go ahead and do the code, because it's just a simple number. Otherwise, I don't want to do the SQL command, and I'll still redirect back to the main page. So that would be one way to stop it. In addition, as we get into more complex information that gets passed to us when we do inserts and creating new records and things, there are some methods built into us that will try to eliminate this idea of SQL injection. So there's this method called real escape string, which takes a value and encodes the string so that it no longer becomes valid SQL if they try to inject some SQL into that. So it makes sure that everything is set correctly. So MySQL real escape string is what we would call on that, and we call that with just the string that we want. So as we get into some more complex things, we would call that like, we might do something like ID equals MySQL MySQL real escape string, and we would put the value of ID in there. And that cleans it. It's a lot like those HTML entity methods that we used. But this needs additional parameters. If I look here, I'm missing some stuff. I need the connection, because it actually sends the string to the SQL database and makes sure that it fits the database that we're using. And that will now clean that variable up and allow me to use it in my SQL command here. Because SQL injection is probably the worst thing, and PHP is very prone to that. You really got to be careful with that stuff. We'll do more on that later. All right, so we want to almost every time, let's just say every time, we get data that we're going to then insert or do something with to mess with our database, we want to make sure that we run it through this method every single time. All right, any questions on our delete that we've done so far?
One question. I noticed there is a command for MySQL connection close.
Oh, yeah, we haven't been doing that. Yeah, we haven't been doing that. By default, it closes on the page, but we would do that after we're done with the connection. So at the end of our page, we would do it maybe after we echoed out our table. We would say my SQLI close, and we put in the value of the connection variable that we had, and that closes and cleans up the connection, because you really can't keep connections open across pages anyway, but that's a good way to clean stuff up. You should do that. I haven't been doing that, but you have to do that. You should do that. This one? That's absolutely necessary, yeah. Oh, I would need to close it here too, yes. Is that what you're saying?
No, the is numeric right below that if statement.
No, that's an extra piece that's not necessary at that point. So
basically the real escape string gets rid of it.
That should fix that, yeah. But in this case, I think this is a better way because ID, I expect it to be just a number. And I don't want anything else. So this is probably safer even than the MySQL escape string in this case. I just wanted to show you as we get to more data, like we're inserting article content, long strings of stuff, you want to make sure they don't put in extraneous SQL select statements. Yeah. All right. Any other questions on that? No? All right. The other way to do the close, this is identical to this. Just you'll see some tutorials online that are different. I can do it this way as well, where I'm taking the connection value that I have, this object, and calling the close method on it. So these are identical lines of code in this case. All right, so because I've kind of mixed that up here, I've got connection calling the query method on the connection and the fetch a social on the result. So I probably should use this one. That makes more sense. But they're identical. It won't make any difference. Pardon me?
That first one was the one I was referring to that I saw in that.
Yeah, this one here. Yeah. Yep. All right. So let's see. We have a few minutes. Let's start to work on creating a new record. All right. These are a little harder to deal with because I have to deal with a form to collect all that information from the user and accept that data, put it all into a SQL select statement, an insert statement, and then call the query again. So it's the same kind of concept, but I have to start with a form. So let's put a new box up here. Let's put a new link. I like to start from the interface. So let's add I'm going to put it up here at the top. And I'm going to create a link called product new.php. And just put a new link. So there's my A tag. Oh, thank you for IntelliSense. Mess up all my, holy cow. All right, so I'm adding a new A tag inside of a blank cell at the top of my table. So let's see what it looks like. If I even have any products left. Reload my page. Look on the side. Now I have a new link here, and it kind of fits, user interface wise. I want to create a new product. It's not row specific, so I'm going to put it at the top. When I click new, I want to go to this product new.php. All right, so I don't need to pass any information to that because I'm going to create a whole new product from there. So I need to create a new file called, and let's call it a PHP file this time, product new. There we go. Look at that. And we have to start creating the form necessary to retrieve the data from the user. All right, so we need to echo out a form here. So let's do that. Let's echo out end of form, and we'll just start building our form from scratch. We need a method. What's our method going to be? Post. Our action is going to be what? Well, ideally, since they're going to have errors, right, we want to redisplay this page if they forget to add something. So we're going to be constantly going back to the same page until they get it right. Once they get it right, I'm going to capture that data from the form, do a connection query, and actually ship it out to the database. So I want to post to the same page, product new.php. And we close our form. I like to do that first. And then we build our form. Just like standard HTML, I'm going to have a name, right? Input type equals text, value equals nothing, and I need a name is going to be what was the first thing in my database? Well, let's look at my title. The name. I do not want the user to ever be able to type in a product ID. Remember, that was an auto increment value, so I let the database figure that out. So I don't want to have a field for that. I just want to have the name. So the name equals name. That's going to be the key that I get out of the post array. The name is what I get as the key, right? No, I got it working. So there's my name. And, of course, you can style this however you want. I'm going to have a description. And what is that going to be? What type of field is that? All right, so I'm going to have open a text area. The name is going to be description. And I close my text area. Put a bunch of nice break tags. Obviously, you put these in divs and field sets, and this is not design class. So I'm going to have a price field. And that's going to be type equals text, value equals nothing, name equals price. Etc. So let's just see, let's have a submit here. Input type equals submit, value equals new product, name equals submit, right? That sounds good. There we go. So now I've got a nice little form. What? Sumbit. It's a sumbit. Sumbit. Submit. There we go. That's better. So reload our page. Got a nice little form here. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, God.
Just nice. So I can put, yeah, talk to Lynn. So I put this is creating a new product, so I might have boots in here, and warm and snuggly, and they're $99.95. And when I click on new product, where is this form going to go to? Back to itself. Is any of it sticky? Yeah. All right, so there we go. We got our nice form. Now I can start to think about getting that data from the post. So I might say something like, if the value of submit, if that was set, then I might want to get a bunch of variables, right? I might say that my name is going to be my $get subname. And my description equals $get of description. And my price is my price. And so now I've got values that I can insert into this. So now my value, I could change this form now and put name, description, and price. That makes it sticky, right? So I just say name, it's between the text area for the description, and the value for my price is price. And now we're all happy. So let's see what happens if that works. What's wrong? Did you have a question, Brian?
I would determine an operator so that
Yeah.
get name is set and it's equal to get name, otherwise blank.
Right, because right now these are nothing, but it's not actually storing them. So where did I go wrong? It's a good debugging quiz for you. I always go to the source, look at the source. My values have nothing in them. So that looks like this submit is never actually getting into this method. So how would I debug something like this? Well, what I do is I echo some stuff out inside my if, all right? And if triggers, I should get something on my page. I'm just giving you some ideas how to do this. So I get all my stuff, I post it, it's never getting inside of that. So this is never triggering this if get submit. So what is the problem? I see it, but
You're saying it's true.
what is the problem? This is a really common bug. Anybody see it? All right, how am I submitting my form here? Post. How am I getting the data back from my form? Duh, this should be post, right? So that's a good one. That's really common, though. Maybe it's only common for me because I do it all the time.
Maybe because you've done this more than us.
Yeah, now we're sticky. Look at that. Look at that, nice and sticky. Isn't that great? So now I've got a form with some data, and it's getting the data, posting it back to the form, and we'll continue on with this tomorrow because we're out of time.